Hey folks, tonight we begin a journey into the secret world of shadow warriors, assassins, spies, and power manipulators in the ancient and medieval ages. Picture yourself in a dark alley in ancient Rome. The air is cold, heavy with damp earth and stale bread. A figure glide past, cloak rustling, eyes glinting like a blade under moonlight. Feel your pulse quicken, yet these aren't the heroes or villains of legend. They're real people, living on the edge of life and death, where one mistake means vanishing forever. Honestly, you probably wouldn't last a day in their world. Too much danger, too little light, and definitely no Wi-Fi to look up an escape plan. So, before you get cozy, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment. Let me know where you're watching from and what time it is there. It's amazing to see who's joining us to explore history from all over the globe. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to never miss our exciting journeys. You stand there, in the darkness, your heart thumping. The world of shadow warriors isn't for the faint of heart. This is where silence is a weapon, and light is the enemy. In ancient and medieval times, people like assassins or spies weren't the glamorous figures of modern tales. They didn't have sleek leather cloaks or shiny gadgets. They were society's outcasts, pushed into danger by poverty, desperation, or simply having no other choice. You don't choose to be an assassin for fame. You do it because life has slammed every other door. And now a pouch of coins with a whispered name is your only way out. Imagine this. You're a failed farmer, or maybe a mercenary left behind after a forgotten war. One day, a stranger, face half hidden, approaches you in a rundown tavern. They slide a pouch of coins across the table, their eyes cold. Do this job, they say, and you'll have enough to start over. But this isn't fixing a fence or herding sheep. It's taking a life, not just anyone's, but a noble, a bishop, or a general, guarded by dozens of soldiers and thick stone walls. You hesitate, but then you look at your tattered shoes, your empty stomach, and you nod. Welcome to the world of those silent shadows. You're in Constantinople now, 800 CE. The city hums, its markets thick with the scent of spices and the shouts of traders. But you're not here to shop. You weave through the crowd, cloak pulled tight to hide your face. In your pocket, you carry a small dagger, its blade honed sharp enough to cut through a prayer. Your mission is to find a wealthy merchant who's angered a powerful noble. But this isn't simple. The merchant lives in a fortified house, surrounded by high walls, guards with eagle eyes, and a massive hound that can smell fear from a mile away. You pause at a street corner, pretending to adjust your shoe. Your eyes scan the area, noting every exit, every figure. A flower seller calls out, offering roses. But you ignore her. A wrong smile could draw attention. You can't let anyone remember your face. That's the first rule of the shadows. Don't be seen. Don't be remembered. You move, steps light as a cat's. But your mind races. How do you breach the wall? How do you dodge the dog? And most importantly, how do you escape after the deed is done? Because, you know, killing is the easy part. Getting away is what keeps you awake at night. You approach the merchant's house, your pulse quickening as you spot light spilling from a window. There's a feast tonight, a chance to blend in, but also a risk. Too many eyes could mark you as an outsider. You pull your hood lower, posing as a servant delivering wine. The massive door swings open, and you step inside. the smell of roasted meat and wine filling the air. You flash a smile at a maid, hoping it looks more natural than it feels. Stay calm, you tell yourself, but your hand tightens on the dagger in your pocket. Sweat soaking through the cloth. Now, picture you've slipped past the guards. You find the merchant, laughing with his guests, unaware of you. You wait, standing in the shadow of a corner, eyes locked on him. But then, a child darts past, giggling, and you freeze. The child looks at you, eyes wide and innocent. A shiver runs through you. What happens if you're caught, if you fail, or worse, if you succeed, but live with those eyes haunting you forever? This isn't a game, this is the life of a shadow warrior, where every step is a gamble, and the prize is often just another day of survival. You retreat into the darkness, waiting for the perfect moment. But in this world, perfect moments are rare. You know every second you linger. The risk of discovery grows. A servant might notice you lack the household's badge. A guard might question your presence. Or worse, the one who hired you might have set a trap, ready to sacrifice you to erase their tracks. You chuckle quietly at the thought. A trap within a trap. Like a twisted joke, only those in the shadows would understand. But you can't dwell. The crowd thins, and the merchant is leaving the room. This is your chance, or your doom. You follow, step silent on the stone floor, each one a whispered prayer. You don't pray for forgiveness. You pray for silence, for the shadows to shield you, for your blade to strike true. Because in the world of shadow warriors, there's no room for mistakes. And when you finally face the merchant, in a dim hallway with no witnesses, you grasp a cold truth. You're not the hunter, you're the hunted, trying to survive a game where no one truly wins. Part 2. Medieval Assassins. No glamour here, you're back in the shadows. The air thick with the damp chill of a medieval night. The cobblestones beneath your feet are slick with mud, and the distant howl of a dog makes your pulse quicken. You're not here for a stroll, you're an assassin. Or at least you've stumbled into the life of one, and the reality is sinking in fast. This isn't the sleek, stylish world of cloaked heroes you might have imagined. No, this is a gritty, disparity existence, where every job could be your last, and the only reward is a fleeting chance to survive another day. You pull your tattered cloak tighter, the rough wool scratching your skin, and move deeper into the alley. The life of a medieval assassin isn't glamorous. It's a brutal, thankless grind, and you're about to learn why. Last time, you stood in a bustling city, clutching a dagger, your heart pounding as you eyed your target. You felt the weight of the job, the eyes that might spot you, the betrayal that could be waiting. Now, let's peel back the layers of this dark trade. Why does someone become an assassin in the Middle Ages? It's not because you woke up one morning dreaming of skulking through castle halls. No. You're here because life left you no other path. Maybe you were a peasant whose crops failed one too many times. The tax collector's boot on your neck. Maybe you were a soldier, cast aside after a war. Your skills with a blade, useless in a world that doesn't pay for peace. Or maybe you were a thief who got too good at slipping through shadows, and someone noticed. Whatever the reason, you didn't choose this life. It chose you, and now you're stuck with it. Picture yourself in a smoky tavern in 13th century Florence. The air smells of sour ale and sweat, and the firelight casts flickering shadows on the walls. You sit in the corner, hood up, nursing a cup of watered-down wine you can barely afford. Across the room, a man in a fine cloak watches you. He's not here for the ale. He slides into the seat opposite you, his voice low, his words careful. There's a job, he says, pushing a small pouch of coins across the table. The clink of silver is the sweetest sound you've heard in weeks. But your stomach twists. The job is to kill a merchant who's been skimming profits from a local lord. The merchant's not some innocent bystander. He's got blood on his hands too, but he's guarded, paranoid, and lives behind walls that mock your empty pockets. You take the coins. You have to. But as you pocket them, you know this is no path to riches. It's a path to a noose. If you're lucky, mainstream historical fact. In medieval Europe, assassins were often drawn from the margins of society, disgraced soldiers, indebted peasants, or minor criminals who took on dangerous tasks for powerful patrons. Chronicles from the period, like those of the Italian city-states, describe hired killers working for noble families or political factions, often paid in coin or promises of protection. Though many were betrayed or executed after completing their tasks, the reality of being an assassin is far from the myths. You're not a master of disguise or a trained warrior. You're just someone who's learned to move quietly, to blend in, to strike fast and vanish faster. Your training, if you can call it that, comes from surviving. Maybe you learned to climb a wall without slipping because you once had to escape a mob. Maybe you know how to spot a guard's patrol pattern because you've spent nights hiding from them. But there's no school for this. No mentor to guide you. You learn by doing, or you don't learn at all. And every job teaches you something new, usually something you wish you could forget. Like the time you hid in a haystack for 2 days, fleas biting your skin, waiting for a nobleman to pass by, or the time you slipped into a kitchen, only to realize the cook's knife was sharper than yours and her scream louder than you'd hoped. Let's talk about the stakes. You're not killing random farmers or tavern drunks. Your targets are important nobles, bishops, merchants with too much gold or too many enemies. These are people who live behind stone walls, surrounded by guards who'd rather skewer you than ask questions. You spend days watching, waiting, learning their routines. You note when the gate opens, how many steps it takes for the night watchman to tire, where the dogs sleep, one wrong move, and you're not just dead, you're a warning. Your body left dangling from a gibbet for all to see. And here's the kicker, even if you succeed, you're not safe. The person who hired you doesn't want a long-term relationship. They want a clean job. No witnesses. And that includes you. You've heard stories of assassins who completed their task, only to find a blade in their back instead of a second payment. Funny, isn't it? You risk everything for a pouch of coins. And half the time, you're dodging your own employer's knife. It's like signing up for a job where the exit interview is a sword. Odd or lesser-known detail. Some medieval assassins used disguises that sound almost comical today. In 14th century England, one assassin reportedly posed as a traveling minstrel, hiding a dagger in his lute case. He was caught when he played a wrong note during a performance, drawing suspicion from a musically inclined guard who noticed the lute was oddly heavy. You're moving now, through the streets of Florence, the merchant's house looming ahead. The job seems simple enough. Get in, strike, get out. But nothing's simple. The merchant's home is a fortress, with iron-bound doors and windows barred tight. You've bribed a servant to leave a side gate unlocked. But you're not naive enough to trust them completely. You've got a backup plan, a rope hidden in your cloak, in case you need to scale the wall. Your dagger is tucked under your sleeve, wrapped in cloth to avoid clinking. You've heard of assassins who got caught because their weapons jingled at the wrong moment. Not you. You're careful. You have to be. The moon is high, casting long shadows that you use to your advantage. You slip past a sleeping guard. His snores, a small gift from whatever gods still watch over you. But let's pause for a moment. Why are you doing this? The coins. Sure, but it's more than that. You're here because the world has chewed you up and spit you out. You've got no land, no family, no name worth mentioning. The only thing you have is your ability to disappear, to become a ghost in a world that doesn't care if you live or die. You're not proud of this life. But pride is a luxury you can't afford. You think about the merchant, his fine clothes, his warm house, his full table. Part of you hates him, not because of who he is, but because of what he represents, a life you'll never have. And then there's the other part of you, the part that whispers, get out, run, find a village where no one knows you. But you can't. Once you're in this game, there's no walking away. You're a shadow, and shadows don't get to choose their path. You reach the side gate. It's unlocked, just as the servant promised. You slip inside. The courtyard quiet, except for the rustle of leaves in the night breeze. The merchant's room is upstairs. Third window from the left. You've memorized the layout, counted the steps, planned for every contingency. But as you climb the stairs, a floorboard creaks under your weight. You freeze, heart pounding like a war drum. Somewhere below, a door barks. You hold your breath, praying the sound fades. It does. You move on, slower now. Every step a test of nerve. This is the life of an assassin, not a thrilling chase, but a series of heart-stopping moments where you're one mistake away from disaster. Historians still debate whether medieval assassins were truly as solitary as the records suggest, or if some worked in loose networks, sharing information or resources under the radar of official chronicles. Some evidence from Venetian archives hints at groups of hired killers coordinating for high-profile jobs. But the lack of concrete records leaves the question open. You reach the merchant's door. Your hand hovers over the handle, the cold iron biting into your palm. You can hear him inside, snoring softly. This is it. The moment where you cross the line, where you become something more than a man and less than a hero. You push the door open. The hinges mercifully silent. The room is dark, save for a sliver of moonlight cutting through the window. The merchant lies in bed, oblivious, his chest rising and falling. You step closer, dagger in hand, its weight heavier than it should be. You're not thinking about the money now. You're thinking about the sound of your own breathing, the way it feels too loud in this quiet room. You're thinking about the servant who might betray you, the guards who might be waiting, the life you'll never live if you don't get this right. And then, just as you raise the dagger, you hear it, a soft cough from the corner of the room. You spin, eyes wide, and see a figure in the shadows. Not a guard, not a servant, but someone else. Another assassin, a trap, your client's insurance policy to ensure you don't talk, you don't have time to think. You back away, the merchant still snoring, unaware of how close he came to death. You slip out the door, down the stairs, and into the night. For your heart, a wild thing in your chest. You've survived. But for how long, in this world? Every job is a gamble, and every shadow hides a blade. You laugh softly to yourself. A bitter sound. Survive tonight. And there's always tomorrow's job. Isn't that just the medieval dream? Part 3, Tools and Skills, Weapons of Darkness. You're still running? The night air sharp in your lungs as you flee the merchant's house in Florence. The close call with that shadowy figure in the corner lingers like a bad taste. Your dagger, still clutched tight, feels like an anchor. Its cold steel grounding you as you slip through the city's maze of alleys. You're alive, but only just. That's the life of a medieval assassin. Every moment, a razor's edge. Every job, a dance with death. Now, as you catch your breath behind a crumbling stone wall, Your mind shifts to what kept you breathing tonight. Not courage, not luck, but the tools and skills you've scraped together, the crude instruments of your trade. This isn't about flashy gadgets or polished blades. It's about the rusty, makeshift weapons of darkness and the instincts that make you a ghost in a world that wants you dead. You pat the dagger at your side, its handle worn smooth from years of use. It's not much to look at, stolen from a careless guard in a tavern brawl. Its blade pitted with rust, but it's yours. And it's sharp enough to do the job. You don't carry a sword, too heavy, too loud, too likely to get caught on your cloak as you climb a wall. No, your tools are simple, designed to hide, to strike, to vanish. You've got a thin rope coiled in your satchel, good for scaling a low wall or, in a pinch, strangling someone quietly. There's a vial of murky liquid, bought from a toothless herbalist who swore it would knock a man out cold. You're not sure if it's poison or just spoiled wine, but you keep it close, just in case. And then there's your cloak, tattered, mud-stained, unremarkable. It's your best weapon, letting you blend into the crowd. A nobody in a world that ignores nobodies. Mainstream historical fact: medieval assassins relied on simple, concealable weapons like daggers and garrots. As documented in chronicles from 13th century Europe, unlike soldiers, they avoided bulky arms to maintain stealth, using everyday items like ropes or poisoned food to carry out their tasks, often with minimal resources. You crouch lower, the walls rough stone, scraping your back as you listen for footsteps. The city is quiet now. The distant clatter of a cart, the only sound. You're safe, for the moment, but you know better than to relax. Your skills are what got you out of that house tonight, and they're hard-won, born from years of trial and error. You weren't trained in some secret guild. No matter what the tavern tales say, your education was the streets, the forests, the nights spent running from guards who wanted your head. You learned to move silently because you once stepped on a twig and nearly got skewered. You know how to pick a lock because you spent a winter breaking into barns to avoid freezing. And you've mastered the art of looking like you belong, head down, shoulders slumped. Just another peasant trudging through life because standing out gets you noticed. And noticed gets you dead. Let's talk about your dagger. It's not the elegant blade of a knight, engraved with heroic deeds. It's a utilitarian thing, about 6 inches long, with a grip wrapped in leather scraps to keep your hand from slipping. You sharpen it obsessively, using a whetstone you carry in your pocket. You've learned the hard way that a dull blade sticks, and a stuck blade means a screaming target and a very short career. You practice your strikes in the dark, aiming for soft spots, throat, armpit, the gap between ribs. It's not pretty, but it's effective. You've heard of assassins who tried to get fancy, aiming for the heart like some bard's tale, only to hit bone and lose their nerve. Not you. You're practical. You strike fast. You strike sure. And you don't stick around to admire your work. Odd or lesser-known detail: some medieval assassins used hollowed-out objects to smuggle weapons. A 12th century French account describes an assassin who hid a poisoned needle inside a hollowed-out apple, passing it off as a gift to bypass a nobleman's guards, only to be foiled when the noble's taster took a bite and collapsed. Your other tools are just as practical. The rope is lightweight, made of hemp, and you've knotted it at intervals to make climbing easier. You've used it to scale walls, to lower yourself from windows, and once, in a moment of desperation, to tie up a guard who woke at the wrong time. You're no sailor, so your knots are clumsy, but they hold. Then there's the vial of herbal concoction. You're skeptical of it. Most poisons are unreliable. either too weak to kill or so strong they kill the wrong person. You've heard stories of assassins who poisoned a whole feast by mistake, turning a quiet job into a massacre. You're careful with your dose, measuring it with a trembling hand, praying it does what the herbalist promised. If it doesn't, you've got your dagger. If that fails, well, you try not to think about that. Your skills are less tangible but just as vital. You've learned to read a room, to spot the guard who's lazy, the servant who's nosy, the dog that's too curious. You can tell when a crowd is restless, when a patrol is about to turn the corner, when a target is about to sense something's wrong. It's not magic, it's survival, honed by years of near misses. You're good at climbing, not because you're athletic, but because you've fallen enough times to know what not to do. You're decent at disguises, though they're nothing elaborate. A stolen monk's robe, to a bit of dirt smeared on your face, and a limp to sell the story. You once passed yourself off as a pilgrim to get through a city gate, muttering prayers you half remembered from childhood. It worked, but only because the guard was drunk. You're not proud of it, but pride doesn't keep you alive. You move now, leaving the wall behind, heading for the river that cuts through Florence. You need to wash the mud off your boots, hide your tracks, maybe even ditch the cloak if it's too recognizable. Your mind races, cataloging your tools, your skills, your mistakes. You should have checked the merchant's room more thoroughly. That cough in the corner, what was it? A servant? A rival? You shake your head, annoyed at yourself. Distraction is death. You focus on the river ahead, its dark waters glinting under the moon. You'll cross it. I find a barn to sleep in, and figure out your next move. Maybe you'll collect the rest of your payment. Maybe you'll skip town before your client decides you're too much of a liability. Either way, you'll need your tools and skills to survive. Historians still debate whether medieval assassins had access to specialized training or if their skills were entirely self-taught. Some suggest informal networks of thieves and mercenaries shared techniques, while others argue the solitary nature of the work meant each assassin learned through personal experience. Often at great cost, you reach the riverbank, the water cold and swift. You kneel, splashing your face, the shock of it clearing your head. You check your dagger, wiping it clean with a rag from your satchel. You test the rope, making sure it's not frayed. You sniff the vial, wincing at its bitter tang. These are your lifelines, the only things between you and oblivion. You laugh softly, the sound swallowed by the river's rush. Lifelines. That's a joke only an assassin would get. These tools aren't saving you, they're just delaying the inevitable. But delay is enough for now. You stand, pulling your cloak tight, and vanish into the night. A shadow armed with scraps and skills, ready for whatever the darkness throws at you next. Part 4. Impossible targets. Hunting the powerful. You're crouched in the underbrush, the damp earth soaking through your knees, the scent of pine and decay heavy in the air. Florence is far behind you now, its alleys and betrayals a fading memory. You've moved on, driven by the need to keep running, to stay one step ahead of the shadows that hunt you. Your dagger is still at your side, its familiar weight a grim comfort, and your cloak is patched with mud from nights spent sleeping in ditches. You're an assassin, a ghost in the medieval world. And tonight, you're facing your toughest challenge yet. The target isn't some greedy merchant or local lord. This time, it's a bishop, a man cloaked in holy power, guarded by stone walls and divine paranoia. You're hunting the powerful, and the stakes are higher than ever. One wrong move, and you won't just die, you'll be damned. The bishop's residence looms ahead, a fortified manor in the heart of a 14th century English countryside. Torches flicker along the walls, casting long shadows that dance like mocking spirits. You've been watching this place for days, your stomach growling from a diet of stolen bread and berries. The bishop isn't just a man of God, he's a political player, hoarding wealth while his flock starves, whispering in the king's ear to secure his own power. Someone, maybe a rival noble, maybe a desperate priest, wants him gone, and they've paid you enough to make the risk worthwhile. Or so you hope. You shift your weight, wincing as a twig snaps underfoot. You freeze, heart pounding, but no one comes. The night is yours. For now, mainstream historical fact. In medieval Europe, high-profile figures like bishops and nobles were frequent targets of assassination due to their political influence. Records from the 14th century, such as those detailing the murder of Archbishop Thomas Becket in 1170, show that even religious leaders were not immune to plots driven by power struggles, often involving hired killers from the fringes of society. You've learned a few things about this bishop. He's paranoid, and rightly so. His manor is a fortress, with a moat that smells like despair and walls thick enough to laugh at a battering ram. Guards patrol the grounds, their armor clinking like a warning bell. There's a gatehouse manned day and night, and the bishop's chambers are on the second floor, behind locked doors and barred windows. You've heard he keeps a taster for his food, a habit picked up after a rival sent him a poisoned chalice last year. He even sleeps with a dagger under his pillow, though you doubt he knows how to use it. Men like him don't fight their own battles, they hire others to die for them. Or, in your case, to kill for them. Getting in is the first problem. You've ruled out the front gate too many eyes, too many swords. Climbing the walls is possible, but the moat makes it tricky. You're a decent swimmer, but you'd rather not emerge smelling like a sewer and dripping with leeches. You've bribed a kitchen maid to leave a servant's door unlatched, but you don't trust her. Bribes are only as good as the fear behind them, and you're not sure she fears you more than her master. Your backup plan is a rope and grapple, hidden in your satchel alongside that dubious vial of herbal concoction from the Florence job. You're still not sure if it's poison, but you've brought it anyway. Desperation makes you cling to anything that might help. Odd or lesser-known detail, some medieval assassins used the environment to their advantage in creative ways. A 13th century chronicle from Germany mentions an assassin who sabotaged a noble's fireplace, filling it with damp wood to create thick smoke, disorienting the household while he slipped in to complete his task. He escaped, but the noble survived. Coughing and furious, you move closer, keeping to the tree line, your cloak blending with the shadows. The manor's walls are daunting, but you've faced worse. You remember that time in Venice, scaling a merchant's tower while a storm raged, your fingers slipping on wet stone. You made it then, and you'll make it now. You hope. The servant's door is your best bet. So, you circle the manor, avoiding the torchlight. The moat gurgles below, a reminder of what waits if you fall. You reach the door, a small wooden panel half hidden by ivy. You test the handle, expecting resistance, but it swings open with a soft creak. Your heart leaps. Either the maid kept her word, or you're walking into a trap. You hesitate, hand on your dagger, listening for the telltale clink of armor or the rustle of an ambush. Nothing. You slip inside. The manor's interior is a labyrinth of dark corridors and flickering candlelight. You move slowly, testing each step to avoid creaking floorboards. The air smells of wax and roasted meat, a stark contrast to the hunger gnawing at your gut. You've memorized the layout from the maid's description: kitchen to the left, great hall straight ahead, stairs to the bishop's chambers at the far end. You stick to the walls, your cloak brushing against cold stone. A servant passe nearby, humming softly, and you press yourself into a doorway, holding your breath. She doesn't notice you. You're a shadow. Nothing more. You move on. The stairs looming ahead like a gallows. The bishop's chambers are guarded. Of course, you spot a single man at the top of the stairs, his helmet glinting in the candlelight. He's young, probably bored, but his sword looks sharp enough to ruin your night. You consider your options. A frontal attack is suicide. You're no knight. And your dagger's no match for a longsword. Poisoning his wine is out. You'd never get to the kitchen and back without being seen. You could try distracting him, maybe tossing a pebble to draw him away. But that's a gamble. You settle on patience, crouching in the shadows, waiting for him to move. Meinungskrolbe. Your legs cramping. But you don't budge. Patience is a skill you've honed through years of near misses. Like that time, you waited 3 hours in a rain-soaked alley for a target who never showed. Finally, the guard yawns, stretches, and wanders down the hall, muttering about needing a drink. You seize the moment, darting up the stairs, your boots silent on the stone. The bishop's door is heavy oak, banded with iron, but it's unlocked arrogance or oversight. You're not sure. You push it open, wincing at the faint groan of hinges, and slip inside. The room is dim, lit by a single candle on a table. The bishop lies in bed, his snores rattling the air like a broken bellows. You step closer, dagger in hand, your pulse a steady drum in your ears. This is it, the moment where you earn your coin or lose everything. But then you notice something. The room feels wrong, too quiet, maybe, or too staged. You glance around, eyes straining in the dark, and spot a glint of metal behind a tapestry. You freeze, your breath catching. Another guard, a trap you back away. Dagger raised, ready to bolt. The bishop stirs, muttering in his sleep, and you curse silently. You're out of time. You could strike now, risk it all, but your instincts scream to run. You listen, slipping out the door, down the stairs, and back into the night before the guard returns. You're alive, but the job's unfinished, and that's almost worse than failure. You vanish into the forest. The bishop's manor, a dark silhouette behind you. Historians still debate whether the targeting of religious figures like bishops was as common as secular chronicles suggest. Some argue it was rare due to the fear of divine retribution, while others point to political records showing frequent plots against church leaders who wielded secular power, especially during times of unrest. You collapse against a tree, gasping, the cold air burning your lungs. Your dagger trembles in your hand, not from fear, but from frustration. You were so close. But close isn't enough in this game. Hunting the powerful is a fool's errand. Yet here you are, driven by coins and desperation. You laugh bitterly, the sound swallowed by the night. A bishop, of all people. You're no crusader, but even you feel a twinge of guilt at the thought of striking a man of God. Not enough to stop you. Though, guilt is a luxury, like hope, and you traded both away long ago. You check your satchel rope. Vile. A crust of bread. Your tools are intact, but your nerve is fraying. You'll try again. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe in another town. For now, you move deeper into the forest. A shadow among shadows, chasing impossible targets and praying you outrun your own. Part 5. Olympias Queen of Schemes. You're deep in the forest now. The English countryside's damp chill seeping into your bones. The bishop's manor is a distant memory, its torchlit walls fading like a bad dream. Your dagger, still strapped to your thigh, feels heavier than ever. A reminder of the job you couldn't finish. You're an assassin, a shadow who hunts the powerful. But tonight, you're just a man, hungry and hunted, moving through the dark to avoid the noose. As you find a hollow to rest in, your mind drifts from your own grim world to another shadow warrior, one who wielded power not with blades, but with cunning and ruthlessness. Her name is Olympias, mother of Alexander the Great, a woman who turned whispers into weapons and shaped an empire from the shadows. You're about to step into her world, where schemes are sharper than any dagger. You settle against a tree, your cloak pulled tight against the cold. The forest is quiet, save for the rustle of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. You imagine yourself in Pella, the capital of Macedon. Around 357 BCE, the air there is warmer, heavy with the scent of olive oil and incense, but just as thick with danger. You're not an assassin here, you're a courtier, a nobody skulking in the halls of a palace where every glance hides a plot. At the center of it all is Olympias, a princess from Epirus, newly wed to Philip II, king of Macedon. She's young, barely out of her teens, with dark eyes that seem to see through stone. You watch her from the shadows, knowing she's no ordinary queen. She's a priestess, Arshima, a woman who speaks to gods and serpents. And you're already wondering if you're safer facing a bishop's guards than crossing her path. Mainstream historical fact: Olympias, born as Myrtale in Epirus around 375 BCE, married Philip II of Macedon and gave birth to Alexander the Great. Ancien sources, such as Plutarch's Life of Alexander, to describe her as a powerful figure who used her religious influence and political acumen to secure her son's throne, often through ruthless means, including the elimination of rivals. Olympias isn't what you expect from a queen. She doesn't sit quietly, embroidering tapestries or smiling at her husband's side. No, she's a force, draped in robes that shimmer like moonlight, her presence commanding even when she's silent. You hear whispers about her, how she was raised among the wild tribes of Epirus, steeped in rituals and oracles, how she dances in frenzied ceremonies to Dionysus, her hair loose, her voice calling to the gods. Some say she keeps snakes in her chambers, letting them coil beside her as she sleeps. You're not sure if it's true, or just court gossip meant to paint her as a witch. But you wouldn't put it past her. She's got a way of making myths feel real. And you're already half convinced she could curse you with a glance. You linger in the palace's torchlit corridors, keeping your head down as nobles pass, their voices low with intrigue. Olympias is new to Macedon, but she's already carving out her place. Philip, her husband, is a warrior king, brilliant and ambitious, but his bed is rarely empty, and his alliances shift like sand. You see Olympias navigate this world with a predator's grace. She doesn't fight with swords, she fights with words, with rituals, with the kind of charisma that makes men kneel. You overhear her speaking to a priestess, her voice soft but sharp, arranging offerings to Zeus that somehow align with her political goals. You realize she's not just praying, she's building a myth, one that will make her son, still unborn, untouchable, odd or lesser-known detail. According to ancient sources like Plutarch, Olympias claimed divine omens surrounded her marriage and her son's birth. She reportedly dreamed of a thunderbolt striking her womb before Alexander was born, a story she encouraged to suggest he was the son of Zeus, not just Philip. This divine branding was a calculated move to elevate her son's status in a competitive court. You move closer, drawn to her despite yourself. She's in the Great Hall now, standing beside Philip as he feasts with his generals. You're just a face in the crowd, but you feel her gaze sweep over you, and you shrink back, heart racing. She doesn't know you, but you're sure she sees more than you want. The hall buzzes with tension. Philip's latest conquests, his plans for Greece, his wandering eye. Olympia smiles, her lips curved like a blade. But you notice her hands, clenched tight around a goblet. She's not here to be ornamental. She's here to survive, to secure her future and her child's. You've heard the rumors Philip's other wives, Macedonian-born, pose a threat. Their sons could challenge hers. And in this court, bloodlines are battlegrounds. You slip out of the hall, needing air. The palace feels like a trap, its marble walls closing in. You find a quiet courtyard, the stars bright above, and think about Olympias. She's not an assassin like you, but she's just as dangerous. You kill with a dagger, she kills with schemes. You've heard whispers of her rivals vanishing poisoned wine, sudden accidents, mysterious fevers. No one can prove it's her, but no one doubts it either. She's got allies, priestesses, oracles, nobles who owe her favors, and she uses them like you use your rope and blade. You laugh softly, the sound bitter. You thought your life was hard, but hers is a different kind of war, fought in silk and smiles, where a single misstep could cost her everything. Back in the palace, you hear a commotion. A messenger has arrived, bearing news of Philip's latest victory. The court celebrates, but you notice Olympias, standing apart, her face unreadable. You wonder what she's planning. You've heard she's pregnant, and the child Alexander, they'll call him, is already the subject of prophecies. She's not just fighting for herself now, she's fighting for him. And you're starting to understand why she's so ruthless. In your world, you kill to survive. In hers, she schemes to build an empire. You're both shadows, in a way, but her darkness casts a longer reach. Historians still debate whether Olympias was directly responsible for Philip's assassination in 336 BCE. Some ancient sources, like Diodorus Siculus, suggest she orchestrated it to secure Alexander's throne, while others argue her involvement was exaggerated by enemies to vilify her as a manipulative sorceress. You're back in the forest now, the memory of Olympias fading as the cold snaps you to reality. Your own schemes feel small compared to hers. You're just trying to survive another night. While she reshaped history, you check your satchel, dagger, rope, that questionable vial. They're your tools. But they're nothing compared to her weapons, ambition, faith, fear. You stand, brushing dirt from your cloak, and move deeper into the woods. You've got no palace, no profecias, but you've got your own kind of cunning. You'll need it, because your next target is out there. And like Olympias, you know the powerful don't fall easily. You smirk, thinking of her snakes and her schemes. Maybe you're not so different after all, just two shadows, dancing in the dark, hoping to outlast the dawn. Part 6. Knossos Maze of Mystery. You're trudging through the English forest, the weight of your cloak dragging like a sodden shroud. Your dagger, a cold comfort at your side. The bishop's failed job still stings, a reminder of how close you came to disaster. Olympias's world of schemes and serpents lingers in your mind. Her ruthless cunning, a stark contrast to your own desperate scrabble for survival. But now, as you find a dry patch under a gnarled oak to rest, your thoughts drift far from medieval shadows to an older, stranger place. You're no longer in the damp woods of 14th century England. You're on Crete, in the sun-bleached ruins of Knossos. around 1900 BCE. Where history and myth tangle like vines, this is the heart of the Minoan civilization. A palace that feels alive, its corridors whispering of labyrinths and monsters. You're about to step into a maze of mystery, where every turn hides a secret. You blink, and the forest fades. You're standing on a hill, overlooking Knossos. The air warm and salty. Carried from the Aegean Sea, the palace sprawls below. A chaotic sprawl of stone and colour. Its walls painted with leaping dolphins and blooming lilies. It's not just a building, it's a city. A temple. A puzzle. You feel small, dwarfed by its scale. Its 1,000 rooms twisting like a living thing. The sun beats down, and you squint, catching the glint of bullhorns carved into rooftops. You've heard the stories. This is the home of the Minotaur. The beast, half man, half bull, trapped in a labyrinth by King Minos. But as you descend the hill, sandals kicking up dust. You wonder what's real and what's myth. The air hums with possibility, and you're already lost in the maze before you've even stepped inside. Mainstream historical fact: Knossos, located on Crete, was the central palace of the Minoan civilization, flourishing from approximately 2600 to 1400 BCE. Archaeological evidence, uncovered by Arthur Evans in the early 20th century, reveals a complex structure with advanced plumbing, vibrant frescoes, and a layout suggesting it served as a political, religious, and economic hub. You approach the palace. Its entrance, a riot of red columns and painted walls. You're not an assassin here, you're a visitor. Maybe a trader from Egypt, or a pilgrim seeking the gods. The Minoans don't seem to fear you. There are no towering fortifications, no army of guards. You pass a courtyard where youths leap over a charging bull, their movements fluid, almost sacred. You pose, awestruck. This isn't a sport, it's a ritual. A dance with death that feels older than the stones beneath your feet. You hear laughter, the clink of pottery, the murmur of a language you don't understand. Linear R. They call it, scratched on clay tablets. Its secrets locked away, even from the future. You feel like you've stepped into a dream, one where beauty and danger coil together like the snakes in Olympias's chambers. You enter the palace, and the world shifts. Corridors twist, doubling back on themselves. Staircases spiral to nowhere. Light wells pierce the ceiling, casting patches of sun that confuse more than they guide. You turn left, then right, then left again, and suddenly you're in a room with a stone throne, flanked by griffin frescoes. You freeze, half expecting a king to appear, but it's empty. The air heavy with silence. You move on, passing storage rooms crammed with oil jars, workshops humming with the scent of wood and metal, shrines tucked into corners with altars adorned with double axes. You've heard the word labyrinth and wonder if this is the root of the labyrinth myth. Not a prison, but a sacred space, a house of axes where gods and mortals meet. Odd or lesser-known detail: the Minoans created some of the earliest known flushing toilets at Knossos, with clay pipes channeling water to remove waste. This advanced plumbing, rare for the Bronze Age, suggests a society deeply concerned with hygiene and urban planning, a detail often overshadowed by the labyrinth legend. You're lost now, and it's not just the corridors. Knossos feels designed to disorient, to make you question where you are and why you're here. You pass a fresco of a bare-breasted goddess, snakes writhing in her hands, her eyes fierce and knowing. You think of Olympias, her own snakes, her own power. Is this where her kind of magic began? In a world that worshipped women, who spoke to the divine, you shake your head, trying to focus. The palace is a maze, but not the dark, monstrous one of the stories. It's alive, vibrant, its walls pulsing with color and meaning. You stumble into a central courtyard, wide and sunlit, where the bull-leaping rituals might take place. You imagine the Minotaur here, not as a beast, but as a symbol, chaos tamed, power harnessed, a myth born from awe. You sit on a stone bench, catching your breath. The palace hums around you, its secrets just out of reach. You've heard the myth of the Minotaur King Minos, shamed by a divine curse, locks the creature in a labyrinth built by Daedalus. Athene sends tributes, 7 boys, 7 girls to feed the beast until Theseus slays it, guided by Ariadne's thread. But standing here, you see no dungeon, no chains. The labyrinth is the palace itself, its winding paths, a metaphor for something deeper. Maybe it's the Minoans' power, their wealth, their strangeness that inspired the tale. You've heard traders whisper of Crete's dominance, how Athens once paid tribute to these sea kings. Is the Minotaur a memory of that? A story of submission, twisted into myth? You don't know, but you feel the weight of it, heavy as the stones around you. Historians still debate whether the Minotaur myth reflects historical events, such as Crete's political dominance over Aegean city-states, or if it's a psychological allegory for human fears of the unknown. Some argue the labyrinth symbolizes Knossos' complex architecture, while others see it as a ritual space for confronting chaos. You stand, ready to move deeper, but a sound stops you, a low hum, like a chant, echoing from a hidden chamber. You follow it, drawn despite yourself, and find a small shrine, its altar draped in cloth, a bull's horn at its center. You don't touch it, but you feel its power, the same way you felt Olympias' gaze in Pella. Knossos isn't just a place, it's a story, one that's been told for thousands of years, changing with every teller. You laugh softly, the sound swallowed by the stone. A labyrinth with no monster, that's a twist even you didn't see coming. But as you turn to leave, you glance back, half expecting to see a shadow with horns. There's nothing, just the endless corridors, waiting to draw you in again. You're back in the forest now, the English night, cold and sharp. Knossos feels like a fever dream, its colors too bright for this grey world. You check your dagger, your rope, that questionable vial from the Florence job. They're your reality. Not frescoes or myths, but as you move deeper into the woods, you can't shake the feeling that Knossos is still with you. Its maze a mirror of your own life, twisting, endless, full of secrets you'll never fully grasp. You smirk, thinking of the Minotaur. Maybe you're the monster, skulking in your own labyrinth, chasing targets you'll never truly catch. For now, you keep moving, a shadow in a world of shadows, wondering what mysteries wait around the next turn. Part 7. Ancient Spies Whispers in Shadows. You're still moving through the English forest, the damp air clinging to your cloak like a second skin. The memory of Knossos' sunlit corridors and twisting maze fades, replaced by the cold, grey reality of your fugitive life. Your dagger presses against your thigh, a silent reminder of the bishop's job you left unfinished. Olympias' schemes and the Minotaur's myth feel distant now, tales of power and mystery that belong to a world far grander than yours. But as you find a stream to wash the mud from your boots, your mind shifts to another kind of shadow warrior, not assassins like you, but spies, the silent gatherers of secrets in the ancient world. You're about to step into their realm, where whispers are deadlier than blades, and knowledge is the sharpest weapon of all. You kneel by the stream, the icy water stinging your hands as you scrub your boots. You imagine yourself in Athens, around 400 BCE. The city buzzing with the aftermath of the Peloponnesian War. The air smells of salt and olives, and the agora hums with philosophers, merchants, and schemers. You're not an assassin here, you're a spy, a nobody with sharp ears and a knack for blending in. Your job isn't to kill, but to listen, to watch, to carry secrets back to those who pay for them. You pull your chiton tight, its coarse fabric marking you as just another trader, and slip into the crowd. Your eyes dart, catching fragments of conversation, a general's boast, a politician's bribe, a sailor's tale of Spartan ships. You're a ghost, but instead of a dagger, your weapon is silence, and every word you overhear could change the fate of empires. Mainstream historical fact: espionage was a critical tool in ancient Greece and Rome, with spies often used to gather military and political intelligence. Thucydides' History of the Peloponnesian War describes how Athens and Sparta employed informants to track enemy movements, while Roman records mention speculators, specialized scouts who doubled as spies for the legions. You move through the agora, your sandals scuffing the dust, your face carefully neutral. You're working for an Athenian politician, a man with ambitions sharper than a hoplite spear. He's paid you to uncover a rival's plans, rumors of a secret alliance with Persia, whispers that could topple his career or spark a war. You don't care about the politics, you care about the silver drachmas in your pouch. Enough to buy food for a month, if you're frugal. You pause by a stall selling figs, pretending to haggle while you eavesdrop on two men nearby. They're talking about ships, about gold changing hands, about a meeting at dusk by the Piraeus docks. You file it away, your memory a ledger of secrets. To each one a coin in your pocket or a noose around your neck. Being a spy isn't about glamour, any more than being an assassin. You don't have a network of informants or a secret handshake. You're alone, relying on your wits and the ability to disappear into a crowd. Your tools are simple: a wax tablet for jotting coded notes, a cloak to hide your face, a knack for accents that lets you pass as a merchant from Corinth or a sailor from Rhodes. You've learned to read lips, to spot a liar by the flicker of their eyes, to walk away from a conversation without anyone remembering you were there. You're not trained, not in the way soldiers are. Your skills come from years of surviving on the fringes, stealing scraps, dodging slavers, listening to the world's secrets, because no one notices the nobody in the corner. Odd or lesser-known detail: ancient spies sometimes used unconventional methods to pass messages. A 5th century BCE Greek historian, Herodotus, describes a spy who shaved a messenger's head, tattooed a message on his scalp, and let the hair grow back before sending him to deliver the secret, ensuring it couldn't be intercepted unless the recipient knew to shave the messenger's head again. You leave the agora, heading for the docks, where the air grows thick with the smell of tar and fish. The meeting at dusk is your target, but getting close won't be easy. The Piraeus is crawling with sailors, guards, and thieves, all with eyes sharper than yours. You pull your cloak tighter, adopting the slouch of a tired laborer, and weave through the chaos. You spot the men from the agora near a warehouse, their voices low, their gestures tense. You can't get close enough to hear, so you climb a stack of crates, pretending to adjust a rope while you strain your ears. They mention a name: Xerxes, a Persian envoy, and a sum of gold that makes your head spin. You scribble a note on your wax tablet, using a code you've devised: simple symbols that look like a merchant's tally, but mean something else entirely. You're careful, because if you're caught, No one will save you. Your employer will deny, knowing you, and the men you're spying on will gut you like a fish. You slip away, heart pounding, the tablet hidden in your chiton. You need to get this to your employer. But the city feels alive with danger. You pass a temple, its marble columns gleaming under the setting sun, and consider hiding there. But priests ask too many questions. You keep moving, sticking to alleys, avoiding the main roads where guards patrol. You're good at this. You've had to be. You remember a job in Corinth, eavesdropping on a council meeting by hiding in a wine cellar, your knees aching as you pressed your ear to the floor. You got the information, but you also got a spider bite that left you feverish for days. You laugh softly, the sound lost in the dockside din. Spying's not for the faint-hearted or the arachnophobic. The risks are real. You're not just dodging guards or rivals, you're dodging betrayal. Your employer might decide you know too much, like that client in Florence who sent another assassin to silence you. You've heard stories of spies caught in the act, their tongues cut out to keep them quiet, their bodies tossed into the sea. You're careful with your notes, your words, your trust. You don't have friends, only contacts, and even they're suspect. You think of Olympias, her web of allies and oracles, and wonder if she was a spy in her own way, gathering secrets to wield like knives. You shake your head, focusing on the task. You need to deliver this information, collect your pay, and vanish before anyone connects you to the docks. Historians still debate whether ancient spies operated as individuals or as part of organized networks. Some evidence, like Roman military records, suggests structured espionage units, while Greek accounts imply most spies were opportunistic freelancers, driven by profit or survival rather than loyalty to a state. You reach your employer's house, a modest villa on the city's edge. You knock twice. Pause. Knock again, the signal you agreed on. A servant lets you in, and you're led to a small room lit by a single lamp. Your employer, a thin man with eyes like a hawk, takes your tablet, scanning the symbols. You explain what you heard, keeping your voice low, your words precise. He nods, but you notice his hand resting on a dagger at his belt. You tense, ready to run, but he slides a pouch of coins across the table. You take it, the weight reassuring, and leave without a word. You're out the door, into the night, before he can change his mind. You've survived, but the secrets you carry feel heavier than the silver in your pouch. You're back in the forest now. The streams gurgle, pulling you from Athens to England. Your boots are clean, but your hands still shake from the memory of those docks, those whispers. You check your dagger, your rope, that vial you're still too cautious to use. Spies and assassins aren't so different. You realize both live in the shadows, both trade in trust and treachery. You smirk, thinking of the tattooed scalp from that old Greek tale. Maybe you should try it, though you're not keen on shaving your head. For now, you move deeper into the woods, a shadow carrying secrets, wondering if the next whisper you hear will be your own undoing. Part 8. Psychological Warfare. Power of Fear. You're trudging through the English forest, the night's chill gnawing at your fingers as you grip your cloak. The stream where you washed your boots is behind you, but the echoes of ancient Athens linger, the whispers of spies still buzzing in your ears. Your dagger, strapped tight against your thigh, feels like a talisman against the dark, though you know it's no match for the real dangers you face. The bishop's botched job, Olympias' ruthless schemes, the labyrinthine mysteries of Knossos. They've all shown you the world of shadow warriors, where blades and secrets carve history. But now, as you find a rocky outcrop to rest, your mind shifts to a subtler weapon, one you felt but never named. You're about to dive into the art of psychological warfare, where fear is sharper than any dagger, and the mind breaks before the body. You lean against the rock, its cold surface grounding you, and close your eyes. You're not in England anymore. You're in Syracuse, Sicily, around 413 BCE. During the Athenian invasion, the city's walls loom ahead, torchlight flickering like a warning. You're not an assassin or a spy here. You're a messenger, a nobody tasked with carrying news between generals. But you feel the weight of the war, the air thick with dread. Syracuse is under siege, its people huddling behind stone defenses. While Athenian ships choke the harbor, you've seen their siege engines, catapults creaking, battering rams rolling forward like slow gods of ruin. But it's not the machines that make your pulse race. It's the silence before they strike. The rumors of poisoned wells, the severed heads lobbed over the walls. This is psychological warfare, and you're caught in its web. You move through Syracuse's streets, your sandals slapping against cobblestones, the city's tension palpable. You're delivering a message to a commander, but you can't help overhearing the whispers. Citizens speak of Athenian tricks, ghostly figures seen outside the walls, drums beating in the night, livestock found slaughtered, with strange symbols carved into their hides. You know these are no spirits. They're Athenian scouts, sowing panic to stretch Syracuse's nerves thin. You pass a marketplace, empty, save for a few women clutching baskets, their eyes darting as if expecting an attack. You feel it too, the fear that seeps into every crack, making sleep impossible, turning neighbors into suspects. You've felt this before, back in Florence, waiting for a merchant's guard to turn the corner, your heart pounding not from the blade, but from the waiting. Fear is the true weapon here, and the Athenians wield it like masters. You've heard of their catapults launching not just stones but corpses, bloated and diseased, into the city. The first one landed in a courtyard, splitting open, and the stench drove people screaming. It wasn't just disgust, it was terror. The idea that death could rain from the sky, invisible and unstoppable. You shudder, thinking of your own tools. That questionable vial of herbal muck you carry. Could you use it to spark fear? Maybe slip it into a well and let rumors do the rest. You smile grimly at the thought. You're no Athenian general, just a shadow with a rusty dagger, but you see the genius in it. Fear doesn't need to kill to win. It just needs to make you believe you're already dead. Your sandals scuff the dust as you approach the commander's house, a squat building near the city walls. You knock, and a guard lets you in, his eyes suspicious. You hand over the message, a sealed tablet, and linger just long enough to hear the commander mutter about Athenian sorcery. You nod, keeping your face blank, but inside, you're piecing it together. The Athenians aren't just fighting with steel, they're fighting with stories, rumors of curses, tales of gods turning against Syracuse. You've seen this before. In a way, Olympias, with her snakes and oracles, built a myth to make her son untouchable. The Athenians are doing the same, making their army seem unstoppable, divine. You leave the house, slipping back into the streets, your mind racing. Fear is a blade you can't parry, a poison you can't taste. You pause by a temple, its marble steps gleaming under the moon. You're tempted to hide inside, but priests ask too many questions, and you've got enough secrets to carry. You move on, sticking to alleys, avoiding the torchlit roads where guards patrol. You think about your own work as an assassin. You've used fear, haven't you? That moment in the bishop's manor, when you stood over his sleeping form, your shadow looming. You didn't need to strike to feel the power of his vulnerability. You wonder if you could lean into it. Maybe leave a mark. A symbol. Something to make your targets dread the night. You laugh softly. The sound swallowed by the city's hum. A calling card. That's a joke. Only a fool would tell. You're not here to be remembered. You're here to vanish. You're back in the English forest now. The Syracuse siege fading like a dream. The rock outcrop is hard against your back. The night air sharp in your lungs. You check your dagger. Your rope. That vial, you're still too wary to use. The Athenians' tactics linger. Their use of fear, a lesson you won't forget. You're a shadow warrior, and fear is your ally. Whether you wield it or flee it, you smirk, thinking of those drums in the night. Their rhythm, like a heartbeat. Maybe you'll hum a tune next time you creep into a manor, just to see if it spooks the guards. For now, you stand, brushing dirt from your cloak, and move deeper into the woods. A ghost armed with more than steel, ready to face whatever fears the darkness holds. Part 9. Siegecraft shadows meet light. You're weaving through the English forest. The night's damp chill, seeping into your bones. The rocky outcrop where you rested is a fading memory. But the psychological terror of Syracuse's siege still clings to you. Those Athenian drums and hurled corpses haunting your thoughts. Your dagger presses against your thigh. A familiar weight. And your mud-patched cloak flaps softly as you move. You're an assassin, thriving in the quiet of darkness. But you've seen how fear can break a city without a blade. Now, as you find a clearing to catch your breath, your mind turns to a louder, more brutal world. You're stepping into the chaos of siege warfare, where shadows like you meet the blazing light of war machines, and assassins play a deadly role in shattering cities from within. You pose, the stars glinting through the trees, and lean against a gnarled oak. You close your eyes, and you're not in England anymore. You're outside Constantinople. 717. During the Arab siege, the city's massive walls loom like a fortress carved from the earth, torchlight flickering on their stones. You're not just an assassin here. You're a saboteur, hired by the Arab commanders to slip inside and sow chaos. The air smells of salt and smoke, the Bosphorus lapping nearby, and the ground shakes with the thud of battering rams. You feel the siege's pulse, the clash of steel, the groan of catapults, the shouts of men facing death. Your job isn't to fight in the open, it's to creep through shadows, to weaken the city from within, where a single spark can do more damage than 1,000 swords. You crouch near the city's outer wall, your cloak blending with the night. The Arab camp sprawls behind you, a sea of tents and siege engines. You've seen their trebuchets, towering wooden beasts that hurl stones the size of barrels, cratering the walls with each strike. You've heard screams as boiling oil pours from the city's murder holes. Scalding attackers below, but Constantinople's triple walls, moat, and Greek fire, a blazing liquid that burns even on water, make it a nightmare to conquer. That's why they hired you. Your task is to slip inside, maybe burn a granary or taint a water cistern. You don't need to topple the city. You just need to make it bleed enough to break. Your tools are simple. A dagger, a rope, that murky vial of herbal muck you've carried since Florence. You've added a pouch of flint and tinder, perfect for starting fires that look accidental. You're not trained for sieges, but you've learned to adapt. For days, you've watched the walls, hiding in reeds by the shore, noting where guards slack off, where stones crumble, You've found a sewer grate, half submerged, that might lead inside. It's a risk. Crawling through filth could mean disease, and the grate might be barred, but it's your best shot. You think of Olympias, her schemes like a spider's web, and wonder if she'd approve of your plan. You smile grimly, imagining her setting a rival's palace ablaze with a flick of her wrist. You're no queen, but you've got your own kind of cunning. You move toward the sewer grate. The Bosphorus's stink mixing with the siege's smoke. The wall towers above, its battlements bristling with archers. You hear the distant thump of a trebuchet, followed by a crash as stone meets stone. You flinch, but keep moving, your boots sinking into mud. The grate is rusted, coated in algae, but it shifts when you pull. You grimace, knowing what's coming, and crawl inside, the stench of rot and waste choking you. The tunnel is tight, your cloak snagging on jagged stone, but you push forward, dagger in one hand, flint in the other. You're not thinking about empires or glory. You're thinking about the gold promised, if you succeed, and the blade waiting, if you fail. Inside, the city feels alive. Even in the dark, you emerge in a dank alley, water dripping from your cloak, and orient yourself. The granary is your target, a squat building near the city's heart, vital to Constantinople's survival. Burn it, and the city starves. You slip through the streets, keeping to shadows, avoiding patrols. The city is tense, its people whispering of Arab sorcery, of Greek fire that turns men to ash. You've seen fear's power before, in Syracuse, where Athenian corpses broke morale faster than stones. Here, you'll use it too. A fire in the granary isn't just destruction, it's a message. You're not safe, not even behind these walls. You reach the granary, its wooden walls weathered but sturdy. You hear voices inside, guards or workers, and pause. Crouching behind a barrel, you could wait, but time's against you. The siege is tightening, and the Arabs won't pay if you fail. You pull out your flint and tinder, your hands steady despite the cold. You find a pile of straw near the granary's base. Perfect kindling. You strike the flint, sparks catching, and fan the flames gently, watching them spread. You're careful. Too much smoke, and you'll be spotted. Too little, and the fire won't take. You think of Knossos, its vibrant frescoes hiding a civilization's secrets, and wonder if this city, too, will become a myth. You shake off the thought, focusing on the task. The flames grow, licking the granary's walls, and you slip away, the crackle of fire drowned by the siege's din. You're halfway to the sewer when you hear shouts. The fire's been spotted. Bells clang, and the city wakes. You move faster, heart pounding, the stench of smoke chasing you. You reach the sewer, crawling back through its filth, your cloak heavy with grime. You emerge outside, the city's walls glowing faintly with reflected firelight. You've done your job, but you're not safe. The Arabs might pay you, or they might silence you to cover their tracks. You've seen it before. In Florence, a client's betrayal waiting in the shadows. You laugh softly, the sound lost in the night. Trust in a siege. That's a joke. Only a dead man would tell. You're back in the English forest now. The clearing stars, fading as dawn nears. Your boots are damp. Your dagger cold against your skin. The Constantinople siege feels like a fever dream. Its flames too bright for this grey world. You check your tools. Dagger. Rope. That vial you're still wary of. The saboteur's life isn't so different from yours. Both of you slipping through cracks, striking where no one expects. You smirk, thinking of those cats with burning rags. A trick too wild even for you. For now, you move deeper into the woods, a shadow in a world of light and fire, ready for whatever the next siege brings. Part 10. Loneliness of the Hidden. You're still moving through the English forest. The first hints of dawn, turning the sky a bruised grey. The clearing where you caught your breath is behind you. But the fiery chaos of Constantinople's siege lingers. The crackle of the granary flames still echoing in your ears. Your dagger, strapped tight against your thigh, is a cold reminder of your life as an assassin. A shadow slipping through a world that hunts you. The psychological terror of Syracuse. Olympias' cunning. Knossos' mysteries. And now the sabotage of a besieged city have shown you the many faces of shadow warriors. But as you find a hollowed-out tree to rest, your mind turns inward, to a truth you've felt but never faced. You're about to confront the loneliness of the hidden, the crushing isolation of a life lived in the dark, where trust is a myth, and every step takes you further from the world. You slide into the hollow, the tree's rough bark scraping your cloak, and pull your knees close. The forest is quiet, save for the rustle of leaves and a distant owl's call. But the silence feels heavy, like it's pressing on your chest. You close your eyes, and you're not in England anymore. You're in Rome, 100 CE, a sprawling city of marble and mud, where the Colosseum roars and the Tiber glints under torchlight. You're not just an assassin here, you're a fugitive, a man with no name, hired to kill a corrupt senator, and now hiding from the consequences. The air smells of bread and sewage, and the city's pulse thrums around you, alive with voices you'll never join. You're alone, and it's not just the job, it's the life you've built. Brick by brick, out of necessity and fear, you crouch in a cramped attic above a tavern, the stink of stale ale drifting through the floorboards. Your latest job went wrong. The senator survived, and now his guards are scouring Rome for a man with your face. You've ditched your cloak, traded it for a tattered tunic that smells of its last owner. But you know it's not enough. Your dagger lies beside you, its blade dulled from use, and your satchel holds only a crust of bread and that dubious vial of herbal muck from Florence. You've been running since the job failed, sleeping in alleys, stealing scraps, avoiding eyes. You're good at disappearing, but every shadow feels like a hunter. Every footstep, a threat. You realize, with a bitter twist in your gut, that you have no one to turn to. No friend. No ally. No one who'd risk their neck for a ghost like you. Mainstream historical fact. In ancient Rome, assassins and spies often operated in isolation to protect their employers and themselves. Roman records, such as those from the Historia Augusta, describe hired killers and informants working alone, with no formal networks, to avoid detection by the authorities, who harshly punished political crimes like assassination. You shift in the attic, wincing as a splinter digs into your palm. The tavern below hums with laughter, the clink of cups, the warmth of lives you can't touch. You think of your old life, before the dagger, before the shadows. Maybe you were a farmer, your hands calloused from a plough, or a soldier, marching under a legion's eagle. It's hard to remember now, the details blurred by years of running. You've had moments of connection, a barmaid's smile, a merchant's nod, but they're fleeting, like sparks from a flint. You can't afford to linger, to let anyone close. Friends ask questions. Lovers notice scars, bloodstains, the way you flinch at a knock. You learned that the hard way, back in Venice, when a woman you trusted saw your dagger and sold you out for a handful of coins. You escaped. But the betrayal cut deeper than any blade. Your loneliness isn't just about people. It's about place, about belonging. You have no home, no village to return to, no name you can speak aloud. You've used a dozen aliases, Lucius. Gaius, Brother Tobias, when you posed as a monk, but none of them are you. You're a shadow, defined by what you're not a citizen, not a soldier, not a man with a future. You live in the gaps, in attics and alleys, in the moments between jobs when you're not running or killing. You think of Olympias, her palace, a battlefield of schemes, and wonder if she felt this too. She had power, allies, a son to fight for. But was she ever truly seen? Or was she just a myth? A serpent queen to be feared? You shake your head, annoyed at the comparison. She was a queen. You're a nobody. And nobodies don't get to dream of connection. Odd or lesser-known detail. Some ancient assassins left cryptic marks to claim their work. Not for fame, but to deter betrayal. A 20th century ca Roman graffiti in Pompeii, partially defaced, is thought to mark an assassin's kill. A subtle warning to clients not to double-cross the killer. Though such marks were rare due to the need for secrecy. You pull the bread from your satchel, tearing off a piece with your teeth. It's stale. Grittu. But it keeps the hunger at bay. You listen to the tavern below, a singer's voice rising. Off-key, but earnest. You almost smile. Then catch yourself. Smiling feels like a betrayal. Like you're pretending you belong to that world. You don't. You're a tool. A blade in someone else's hand. And tools don't have homes. You think of Knossos. Its maze, a mirror of your life, endless turns. No center, no escape. You wonder if the Minotaur was lonely too, trapped in its myth. Feared, but never known. You laugh softly, the sound muffled by the attic's dust. A lonely monster. That's a tale even you wouldn't believe. The job in Rome is over. But you're still running. You need to leave the city. Find a new target. A new name. You've heard of a job in Antioch. Something about a merchant skimming taxes. It's far, but distance is your friend. You plan your escape, mapping routes through the city's underbelly sewers, rooftops, anywhere the guards won't look. You'll travel light. Just your dagger, rope, and vial. You don't trust the vial, but you keep it. A reminder of the Florence job, of how close you came to trusting someone else. You won't make that mistake again. You've learned to rely on yourself, to build walls higher than Constantinople's. It's not a choice. It's survival. Historians still debate whether ancient assassins and spies ever formed secret communities or always worked alone. Some scholars point to vague references in Roman texts about brotherhoods of informants, but others argue the solitary nature of their work made such groups unlikely. As trust was too dangerous a luxury, you curl tighter in the attic, the singer's voice fading below. Dawn is coming, and you'll need to move soon. You think of Athens, of spies passing secrets in crowded markets, and realize they were as alone as you. You think of Syracuse, of fear breaking a city's will, and know it's broken you too. In quieter ways, you're hidden, not just from guards, but from life itself. You check your dagger, its blade catching the faint light through a crack in the roof. It's your only companion, the only thing you trust. You smirk, thinking of the graffiti in Pompeii, a killer's mark in stone. Maybe you'll leave one someday. Not for fame, but for proof. You existed. For now, you close your eyes. The loneliness, a weight you've learned to carry, and wait for the world to turn dark again. You're back in the English forest. The hollowed tree, cold against your back. Rome's attic fades, but the ache remains. Your boots are damp, your dagger heavy, your satchel light. The loneliness of the hidden isn't just a moment, it's your life. A shadow you can't outrun. You stand, brushing dirt from your cloak, and move deeper into the woods. You're alone, but you've always been. You think of that singer's off-key voice, a warmth you'll never touch, and laugh softly. A shadow with a heart. That's a joke only the night would get. Part 11. Olympia's Path to Power. You're deep in the English forest. The grey dawn, seeping through the trees like spilled ink. The hollowed-out tree where you rested is a fading shelter. But the crushing loneliness of Rome's attic still clings to you. A weight heavier than your dagger. That blade, strapped to your thigh, is your only companion. A cold reminder of your life as an assassin. A shadow, forever running from the light. The sieges of Syracuse and Constantinople. The spies of Athens. The myths of Knossos. They've shown you the many masks of shadow warriors. Each as isolated as you. But as you find a stream to refill your water skin, your mind drifts back to a figure whose darkness rivaled your own. You're returning to Olympias, mother of Alexander the Great, not as the young queen weaving myths, but as a ruthless architect of power, clearing a bloody path for her son's throne. You're about to walk her road, where schemes turn to slaughter, and ambition burns brighter than any siege fire. You kneel by the stream, the icy water biting your fingers as you fill your skin. You close your eyes, and you're no longer in England. You're in Pella, Macedon, 340 BC. The palace, a cauldron of ambition and betrayal. The air smells of wine and myrrh, and torchlight dances on marble walls. You're a courtier, a nobody, skulking in the shadows, watching Olympias. Now, a seasoned queen, her dark eyes sharper than ever. She's no longer the Epirus princess you saw years ago, weaving divine omens for her unborn son. She's a mother, a strategist, a serpent coiled in silk, ready to strike. You feel the court's tension. Philip II's other wives, circling like wolves. Their sons a threat to Alexander's claim. You're just a bystander. But you know one truth: Olympias doesn't play to survive. She plays to win. And you're about to see how far she'll go. You linger in a corridor, your rough tunic marking you as insignificant. Your ears tuned to the palace's whispers. Olympias moves through the court, like a storm held in check, her presence commanding even when she's silent. You've heard the rumors her rituals to Dionysus grow wilder. Her snakes now, a legend. Her oracles, speaking of Alexander as a god's son. But you see the steel beneath the mysticism. She's building a legacy. Not just for her son, but for herself. Philip's new wife, Cleopatra Eurydice, a Macedonian noblewoman, is her greatest threat. Her uncle, Attalus, is a general with Philip's ear, and their newborn son could eclipse Alexander. Now a teenager, brilliant but untested. You watch Olympias at a feast. Her smile, a mask. Her hands steady as she lifts a goblet. You wonder what's in it. Poison, wine, or just water. And realize you wouldn't bet against the first. Mainstream historical fact: Olympias played a critical role in securing Alexander's throne after Philip II's assassination in 336 BCE. Anciennes sources, like Plutarch's Life of Alexander, describe her as a key figure in eliminating rivals, including Cleopatra Eurydice and her infant. ensuring no other heir challenged her son's claim to Macedon's crown. You slip into the feast's shadows, avoiding the noble's gaze. The hall buzzes with laughter, but the air crackles with danger. Attalus, drunk and bold, toasts Cleopatra Euridice. His words, a veiled jab at Alexander's legitimacy. You see Olympia stiffen, her eyes narrowing, and you know this isn't just an insult, it's a declaration of war. Alexander storms out, his face a thundercloud, but Olympias stays. Her composure, a blade honed sharp. You've seen this before, in your own life. The moment before a job, when you know blood will spill. You're an assassin, striking in silence. But Olympias is a queen, and her strikes are louder, bloodier, eternal. You feel a chill, not from the palace's stone, but from her, a woman who makes your dagger seem small. You follow her, drawn despite yourself. As she leaves the hall for a private chamber, you don't dare enter, but you linger outside, ear pressed to the door. You hear her voice, low and fierce, speaking to a trusted ally, maybe a priestess or a general. She's planning, not just for tonight, but for years ahead. You catch fragments, a rival's name, a festival where guards will be lax, a whisper of poison or steel. You think of your own tools, that vial you've carried since Florence, and wonder if she uses something similar, but her weapons are grander. Alliances, myths, the fear she sows like seeds. You've heard of nobles falling ill, of accidents that aren't accidents, and you know her hand is in it, though no one can prove it. You laugh softly, the sound muffled by the corridor. You thought your life was ruthless, but hers is a masterclass. The palace grows quiet, the feast winding down, but you know Olympias never rests. You slip outside, needing air, and find a courtyard under the stars. You think of Philip's assassination, still years away, and wonder if she's already plotting it. You've heard the whispers, that she orchestrated it to clear Alexander's path, though no one agrees on the truth. You see her now, not as a mother, but as a shadow warrior, like you, but with a throne as her battlefield. You've killed for coin, for survival. She kills for legacy, for a son who'll conquer the world. You admire her, in a way, but you're glad you're not her enemy. You've faced guards, traps, betrayal, but her kind of war, fought in whispers and blood, is one you'd never survive. Odd, or lesser-known detail, Olympias reportedly used public displays to cement her power. According to ancient sources, she once staged a dramatic ritual during a Macedonian festival, emerging from a temple with snakes coiled around her arms, terrifying onlookers and reinforcing her divine aura. A calculated move to silence doubters. You're back in the English forest. The streams gurgle, pulling you from Pella's intrigue. Your water skin is full, but your heart feels heavy. Olympias's ambition, a mirror to your own desperate drive. You check your dagger, your rope, that vial you still don't trust. Her schemes make your assassinations seem small, but you share her solitude, her need to stay one step ahead. You stand, brushing dirt from your cloak, and move deeper into the woods. Your new queen, no architect of empires, but you know the cost of living in the shadows. You smirk, thinking of her snakes. Their hiss, a warning. You understand? Power or survival. It's all the same game, and you're both playing to outlast the dawn. Part 12. Knossos, Fall of a Civilization. You're trudging through the English forest, the pale dawn light filtering through the trees. casting long shadows that flicker like restless spirits. The stream where you filled your water skin is behind you, but Olympias's ruthless ambition still lingers. Her scheme's a stark reminder of power forged in darkness. Your dagger, strapped to your thigh, feels heavier now. A cold anchor in your fleeting life as an assassin. The sieges of Syracuse and Constantinople, the spies of Athens, the myths of Pella, they've shown you a world where shadows shape history. But as you lean against a moss-covered boulder to rest, your mind drifts back to an older, stranger place. You're returning to Knossos, not the vibrant palace of bull dancers and snake goddesses, but a crumbling ruin. Its fall, a mystery that mirrors your own precarious existence. You're about to step into the collapse of a civilization, where even the brightest light fades into shadow. You settle against the boulder. It don't suffice, chilling your back, and close your eyes. You're not in England anymore. You're on Crete, around 1450 BCE. Standing amid the fading glory of Knossos, the palace still stands, but its colors are dulled, its frescoes chipped, its corridors eerily quiet. The air smells of dust and salt. The Aegean Sea, a restless murmur in the distance. You're not a visitor here. You're a survivor, perhaps a craftsman or trader, watching the Minoan world unravel. The bull-leaping courtyards are empty, the workshops silent, the shrines abandoned. You feel the weight of loss, like the moment after a failed job, when you know you've outrun death, but not defeat. Knossos is dying, and you're caught in its final breaths, wondering what brought down this labyrinth of a civilization. You wander the palace, your sandals scuffing cracked stone. The maze-like corridors, once alive with color, now feel like a tomb. You pass a light well, its shaft dark where sunlight once poured. You remember Knossos in its prime. Dolphin frescoes gleaming, double axes glinting on altars, snake goddesses watching from shrines. But something is wrong. The granaries are half empty, trade ships scarce, the people's faces drawn with worry. You've heard whispers of disaster. A great wave, a sky choked with ash, a god's wrath. You think of your own life, always one step from ruin, and wonder if civilizations fall the same way. One mistake, one betrayal, one moment when the shadows grow too long. You move deeper, seeking answers. You find a storage room. Its massive pitoi, giant clay jars, tipped over, some shattered, their oil long spilled. You touch a shard, is edge sharp, and imagine the chaos that broke it. You've heard of the Thera eruption, a volcanic island north of Crete that exploded around 1600 BCE. Its blast was colossal, shaking the earth, sending tsunamis to batter Crete's ports. You picture waves swallowing ships, ash choking fields. The sun dimmed for months. You've seen hunger in your own time, the way it turns men desperate. And no, it could have weakened Knossos, draining its wealth and spirit. But the palace survived that disaster, rebuilt stronger. So why is it falling now? You feel a chill, like the trap you sensed in the bishop's manor, and wonder if the real danger came later. You climb a staircase, its steps worn smooth, and emerge on a rooftop. The view stretches to the sea, but the horizon feels empty. No sails breaking the blue. You've heard another theory. The Mycenaeans, mainland Greeks with bronze swords and hungry eyes, may have come to Crete. You imagine their ships landing, warriors storming the undefended palace. Knossos has no great walls, no army. Its power was trade, not war. You see signs of change. Linear, R. The Minoan script, replaced by Linear B. A Greek tongue. The frescoes grow martial, less about dolphins, more about shields. You think of your own life, always running from stronger foes, and know how quickly a shadow can be overrun. But was it conquest? Or something quieter? A slow takeover? Trade turning to tribute? Minoans fading into Mycenaean rule? You descend, drawn to the throne room. Its alabaster seat, empty. Griffin frescoes peeling. You sit, the stone cold, and feel the palace's silence like a weight. You've heard other whispers. Disease. Famine. A failure of faith. Maybe the snake goddesses stopped answering, or the bull rituals lost their power. You think of Olympias, her oracles shaping Alexander's destiny, and wonder if Knossos' priests faltered. Their myths no longer enough to hold the people together. You felt that doubt. The moment before a job, when you question if you'll survive. For a civilization, that doubt could be fatal. A crack where shadows pour in. You stand, the throne room's silence pressing on you, and move toward a courtyard. You find scorch marks on the walls, stone blackened as if by fire. You've heard of internal unrest, maybe a rebellion against the palace's elites. Their wealth, a taunt to starving farmers. You imagine torches lit not by invaders but by locals. The palace burning from within. You've seen betrayal. In Florence. In Rome. And know how quickly trust can turn to ash. You think of your own tools. The dagger. The rope. That vial you've carried too long. Knossos had its tools. Trade. Art. Faith. But they weren't enough. You laugh softly. The sound swallowed by the ruins. A civilization undone by its own people. That's a twist sharper than your blade. You're back in the English forest. The boulder cold against your back. Knossos' ruins fade. But their mystery lingers. A mirror to your own uncertain path. Your boots are damp. Your dagger, heavy. Your water skin full, but your heart, empty. You check your satchel. Rope. Vial. A crust of bread. The Minoan's fall feels like a warning. Even shadows as grand as theirs can vanish. You stand, brushing moss from your cloak, and move deeper into the woods. You're no civilization. Just a man. But you know the fragility of survival. You smirk, thinking of those shattered pithoi. Their oil lost forever. A shadow with nothing to spill. That's a joke. Only the forest would hear. Part 13. Spies and Betrayal. Double-edged blade. You're pushing through the English forest. The dawn's grey light now. A faint glow, as clouds thicken overhead. The moss-covered boulder where you rested is long behind you. But the crumbling ruins of Knossos still haunt your thoughts. A civilization undone by forces you can't quite pin down. Your dagger, strapped to your thigh, digs into your skin with each step. A reminder of your life as an assassin. A shadow, always one misstep from oblivion. Olympias schemes. The sieges of Syracuse and Constantinople. The silent corridors of Knossos. They've shown you a world where darkness shapes empires. But as you find a fallen log to sit on, your mind turns back to the spies you met in Athens. Their whispered secrets sharp as any blade. You're about to dive deeper into their world, where betrayal is the only certainty, and trust is a blade that cuts both ways. You settle on the log. Its damp wood, creaking under your weight, and pull your cloak tight against the chill. You close your eyes, and you're not in England anymore. You're in Byzantium, 600 CE, the city that rose from Constantinople's ashes. Its golden domes gleaming on a twilight sky. The air smells of incense and salt. The Bosphorus, a restless shimmer beyond the walls. You're not an assassin here. You're a spy, a courier of secrets, hired by a Byzantine general to uncover a plot against the emperor. You move through the city's crowded streets, your tunic plain, your face forgettable, your ears tuned to every whisper. But you know this game too well. Every secret you carry is a chain, and every ally a potential traitor. You're about to learn how betrayal shapes the spy's world. A lesson written in blood. You slip into a bustling market, the air thick with the scent of roasted lamb and spices. You're tracking a merchant, a man rumored to be passing messages to Persian agents. Your general wants proof. A letter, a name, anything to justify a move against him. You blend into the crowd, pretending to inspect a stall of pottery while watching the merchant haggle over silk. He's cautious, his eyes scanning the market. But you're better at this. You've learned to move like you belong, to let people's gazes slide past you. You think of your own tools. The dagger, the rope, that murky vial you've carried since Florence. A spy's tools are different. A wax tablet for coded notes, a knack for accents, a memory that holds secrets like a vault. But the risk is the same. One slip, and you're dead. You follow the merchant to a quiet alley, where he meets a cloaked figure. You can't hear their words, but you see the exchange. A sealed scroll passing hands. You inch closer, hiding behind a stack of barrels, your heart steady despite the danger. You've done this before. In Athens, eavesdropping on dockside deals. Your coded notes saving or damning men you'll never meet. But Byzantium feels different. Its intrigue thicker. Its stakes higher. You scribble the cloaked figure's description on your tablet. Tall. Limping. A ring glinting on his left hand. You'll report this to your general. But you're already uneasy. You've heard of spies betrayed by their own employers. Their secrets used to justify purges or silence loose ends. You think of Rome, the attic where you hid, alone and hunted, and know this job could end the same way. Mainstream historical fact: betrayal was a constant threat in Byzantine espionage. Historical records, such as the Chronographia of Michael Psellus, describe spies and informants being double-crossed by their patrons, who often eliminated them to cover political plots or avoid paying rewards, making trust a dangerous gamble in the empire's shadowy networks. You slip away, the market's noise swallowing your steps. You need to deliver your report, but the city feels like a trap. You avoid the main roads, sticking to alleys where the air smells of fish and decay. You pass a church, its mosaics glowing under candlelight, and consider hiding there. But holy places have too many eyes. You think of Olympias, her priestesses weaving loyalty through fear, and wonder if Byzantine spies had their own rituals, oaths sworn in secret to bind them. You doubt it. Oaths break as easily as bones, and you've seen enough betrayal to know better. You've been betrayed yourself, in Venice, by a woman who saw your dagger and sold you out for coin. You survived, but the lesson stuck. Trust no one, not even the hand that pays you. You reach the general's villa, a fortified house near the city walls. You give the signal. 2 knocks. A pause. 1 more. And a servant lets you in. The general is waiting. His face, a mask of ambition. His fingers drumming on a table. You hand over your tablet, describing the merchant. The scroll. The cloaked figure. He nods, but his eyes linger on you, and you feel a prickle of dread. You've heard of spies like you disappearing after a job. Their bodies found in the Bosphorus. Their secrets buried with them. You take the pouch of coins he offers, the weight reassuring. But you're already planning your exit. You leave, slipping into the night. Your steps light, your senses sharp. You're good at vanishing, but you know it's never enough. Odd or lesser-known detail, Byzantine spies sometimes used hidden compartments in everyday objects to smuggle messages. A 7th century account describes a spy concealing a coded note inside a hollowed-out sandal sole, passing it to a contact during a casual market exchange, a method that relied on the item's ordinariness to avoid suspicion. You head for the city's edge, where you've stashed a change of clothes in an abandoned stable. You'll ditch the tunic, maybe head to a smaller town, hee low until the merchant's plot blows over. But as you move, you hear footsteps behind you. Soft but deliberate. You don't turn. Just quicken your pace. Your hand brushing your dagger. You think of Athens, the docks where you dodged a tail, and know this is no coincidence. You duck into an alley, pressing against a wall, and wait. The footsteps stop, and you hear a low whistle, a signal you don't recognize. Your heart races, but you stay still. A shadow among shadows. You think of Knossos, its fall, a tangle of betrayal and collapse, and wonder if this is your own end. A spy undone by the game he played. The whistle fades, and you move again. Faster now. The stable just ahead. You change, burying the tunic under straw, and slip out. A new man with a new name. You've survived, but the betrayal you sensed lingers. A blade you can't see, but know is there. You think of your own life, the clients who've tried to silence you, the allies who've turned. You laugh softly, the sound lost in the city's hum. A spy trusting a general. That's a joke only a corpse would tell. You're alone. As always. Your secret's your only currency. Your dagger, your only friend. You move toward the city gates. The Bosphorus, a dark promise of escape. Knowing the next job, the next betrayal, is never far away. You're back in the English forest. The log damp beneath you. The dawn cold and unforgiving. Byzantium's alleys fade, but the sting of betrayal remains. A mirror to your own solitary path. Your boots are heavy. Your dagger colder. Your satchel light. You check it. Rope. Vial. A scrap of bread. The spy's life is yours. Both of you trading in shadows. Both of you running from blades you can't see. You stand, brushing bark from your cloak, and move deeper into the woods. You're no Byzantine schemer, just a man with a blade and a past. You smirk, thinking of that sandal with its hidden note. A trick too clever for you. But betrayal, that's a language you speak fluently, and the forest is full of its whispers. Part 14, Legacy of the Shadows. You're trudging deeper into the English forest. Have the dawn's grey light, now a faint shimmer as heavy clouds roll in. Promising rain. The fallen log where you rested is a distant memory. But the sting of Byzantium's betrayal lingers. Its alleys and whispered plots a mirror to your own life of mistrust. Your dagger, strapped tight against your thigh, presses with each step. A cold reminder of your existence as an assassin. A shadow, forever dodging the light. Olympias' schemes. The sieges of Syracuse and Constantinople. The ruins of Knossos. The spies of Athens and Byzantium. They've woven a tapestry of darkness, showing you how shadows shape history. But as you find a sheltered overhang to avoid the coming storm, your mind turns to the long shadow cast by these hidden warriors. You're about to explore their legacy. How assassins and spies left marks on the world. Not in stone, but in stories, fears, and the quiet shifts of power that echo even now. You huddle under the overhang. The rock's damp chill seeping through your cloak as you pull it tight. The forest hums with the first patter of rain, and you close your eyes, letting the sound carry you away. You're not in England anymore. You're nowhere specific. Not Rome or Pella or Knossos, but in a timeless space, a marketplace of memory, where the deeds of shadow warriors are traded like coins. You're not an assassin or spy here. You're a listener, a collector of tales, piecing together the legacy of those who lived in the dark. The air smells of parchment and dust, and you feel the weight of centuries. The stories of men and women like you, their names lost but their impact enduring. You're about to see how your kind, the hidden, shaped the world in ways no king or army ever could. You imagine a tavern in medieval Cairo, 1100 CE. Its tables crowded with traders and poets. You hear a storyteller, his voice low, spinning a tale of a hooded figure who slipped into a caliph's palace, leaving only a dagger on the pillow to warn of his power. The crowd leans in, eyes wide, and you recognize the story, not yours, but one like it. A myth born from assassins like you. These tales aren't just entertainment, they're warnings, shaping how rulers guard their gates, how cities fear the night. You think of your own jobs, the bishop's manor, the merchant in Florence, and wonder if your failures or successes will become legends. Probably not. You're a shadow, and shadows don't carve their names in stone, but the fear you sowed, the guards who double-checked their rounds. That's your legacy. Small but real. Mainstream historical fact. Assassins and spies influenced political and cultural developments across history by destabilizing regimes and spreading fear. The Order of Assassins, or Hashashin, in the 11th–13th centuries, documented in medieval chronicles like those of Marco Polo, used targeted killings to intimidate Crusader and Muslim leaders, creating a lasting myth of invisible killers that shaped security practices and literature. You shift under the overhang, rain now drumming the leaves above. You think of the Hashashin, their fortress at Alamut, their blades striking fear into sultans and knights. You've heard their name whispered in taverns, a word that means both killer and legend. They weren't like you, working alone for coin, but their impact was the same, making power feel fragile, forcing kings to sleep with one eye open. You see their shadow in stories, in the hooded figures of later tales, in the modern spies who trace their craft to your kind. You think of Knossos, its myths of the Minotaur outliving its stones, and realize your legacy, too, is in myth, not your name, but the idea of you, a ghost who strikes from nowhere, who makes the powerful tremble. You picture a Renaissance library, 1500 CE, shelves heavy with manuscripts. A scholar pores over a text, a Roman account of a spy who turned a senator's heart with a whispered secret. You recognize the echo of Byzantium, the merchant's scroll, the cloaked figure, with a limp. These stories shape more than fear. They teach strategy, how to wield information like a blade, how to break an enemy without a fight. You think of Syracuse, the Athenians' corpses, sowing panic, and no psychological warfare owes a debt to your kind. You've used it yourself, letting a guard catch a glint of your dagger, making him hesitate just long enough for you to slip away. You smile grimly, rain dripping from the overhang. Your legacy isn't glory. It's the flinch, the locked door, the whisper that says, someone's watching. Odd or lesser-known detail in ancient China. Spy left a subtle mark on language. The Han dynasty's records of the grand historian mention espionage agents, called yuxia, whose covert actions inspired poetic terms for secrecy and deception, still used in modern Chinese idioms to describe hidden influence or betrayal. You think of your own tools. The dagger, the rope, that vial you've carried too long. They're simple, but their echoes are vast. You see it in modern locks, born from fear of thieves, like you, encoded messages, tracing back to spies' wax tablets. In the paranoia of leaders, a thread stretching from Olympias's court to today's halls of power. You've never thought of yourself as important, just a man surviving. But you realize every job, every shadow you cast, ripples outward. You think of Rome, the attic where you hid, alone and hunted, and know your loneliness, too, is part of the legacy. Spies and assassins don't build empires, but they shape them, carving paths for others to follow, often at the cost of their own lives. You open your eyes. The forest rain, a steady hum. You think of the future, a world you'll never see, where shadows like you wear new faces, suits instead of cloaks, gadgets instead of daggers. You wonder if they feel the same isolation, the same weight of secrets. You think of Byzantium, the general's cold gaze, and no betrayal is timeless, a legacy as enduring as fear. You laugh softly, the sound lost in the rain. A shadow with a legacy, that's a joke only history would tell. But as you check your satchel, rope, vial, a soggy crust of bread, you feel a strange pride. You're part of something bigger, not a name in a chronicle, but a whisper in the dark, a story that outlives you. Historians still debate whether the cultural impact of assassins and spies was as deliberate as their actions. Some argue their myths were crafted by rulers to justify control, while others see them as organic, born from the real fear of invisible threats. A debate that continues in studies of espionage and power. You stand, rain soaking your cloak, and move deeper into the forest. The legacy of the shadows isn't yours to claim, but it's yours to carry. You're Nuhashashin, no Olympias. Just a man with a blade and a past. But every step you take, every job you survive, adds to the story. You smirk, thinking of those Chinese spies, their words woven into language itself. Maybe your dagger's rust will inspire a poem someday. For now, you keep moving, a shadow among shadows, knowing your legacy, like you, will vanish into the dark, but not without leaving a mark. Part 15. Closing shadows fade away. You're deep in the English forest. The rain, a steady whisper as it drums against your cloak, soaking through to your skin. The overhang where you sheltered is behind you. But the legacy of shadow warriors, assassins, spies, Shemas, like Olympias, and the ghosts of Knossos lingers. A tapestry of darkness woven through centuries. Your dagger, strapped to your thigh, feels heavier now. Not just a tool, but a symbol of the life you've led. Always running. Always alone. The sieges, myths, and betrayals you've walked through have shown you a world where shadows cast long, invisible marks. But as you find a quiet glade, the rain softening to a mist, your journey slows. You're about to step out of the shadows, to reflect on the lives of those who lived in the dark, and let their stories fade gently into the night. You settle against a gnarled tree, its roots cradling you like an old friend. The forest is still, the mist curling around you, softening the edges of the world. You close your eyes, and you're nowhere specific. Not Florence, Pella, or Byzantium, but in a timeless place, a quiet space where shadows rest. You're not an assassin anymore, not a spy, not a saboteur. You're just you, a traveler who's carried the weight of these stories, feeling their loneliness, their cunning, their fleeting triumphs. The air smells of wet earth and pine, and you breathe deeply, letting the tension of your life unwind. You're ready to look back, to see the shadow warriors not as myths or monsters, but as people, fragile and fierce, who shaped the world from the edges. You think of Florence, the merchant's house, where you first felt the thrill and terror of the assassin's life. You remember the dagger's weight, the creak of a floorboard. The moment you realized no one would save you, you see yourself in Rome, hiding in that attic. The tavern's warmth below a world you couldn't touch. You feel the loneliness again, but it's softer now, less a wound than a memory. You think of Olympias, her snakes and schemes, her relentless drive to carve a path for Alexander. She was alone too, in her way, a queen feared, but never truly known. You picture Knossos, its vibrant frescoes fading to dust, its people lost to time, their voices silenced, but their stories enduring. You think of Athens, Byzantium, Constantinople, the spies and saboteurs who traded in whispers and fire. Their betrayals, a mirror to your own. Mainstream historical fact. The influence of shadow warriors, assassins, spies, and covert operatives is evident across history, from the Hashashins' targeted killings to Byzantine espionage networks. Their actions, documented in sources like medieval chronicles and Roman histories, disrupted empires and shaped security practices, leaving a legacy in modern intelligence and cultural myths of the unseen. You open your eyes, the glade's mist glowing faintly as the clouds part. You think of the legacy you explored, how shadows like you left marks, not in stone but in fear, in strategy, in the stories that outlived them. You see it in the locked doors of medieval manors, the coded messages of spies, the paranoia of kings. You think of the Hashashin, their name a synonym for terror, and the Yuxia of China, their secrets woven into language. You even see it in yourself. The guard who hesitated, the target who locked his gate tighter because of you. Your life, small and fleeting, is part of that legacy, a ripple in a river that flows through time. You smile softly. The rains whisper, a lullaby. Your new hero. No legend. But you mattered. In the quiet way shadows do. Odd or lesser-known detail in medieval Japan. Ninja used subtle psychological tactics to enhance their mystique. A 14th century text describes ninja leaving origami cranes at the scene of a mission, not as a signature, but to spark rumors of supernatural skill, amplifying fear without a single strike. You think of the future, a world of glass towers and silent drones, where shadows wear new faces. You wonder if they feel the same weight. The loneliness of secrets, the thrill of the unseen. You think of your tools, the dagger, the rope, that vial you never trusted, and know they've evolved. Steel to circuits, whispers to data, but the game is the same. Trust a trap, betrayal a step away. You think of Knossos, its fall a mystery, and know your own end will be forgotten too. That's okay. You're a shadow, and shadows don't seek light. You've lived on the edge, survived the night, and that's enough. You laugh gently, the sound blending with the mist. A shadow with a story, that's a tale worth dreaming. Historians still debate whether the myths of assassins and spies were shaped more by their actions or by the fears of those they targeted. Some argue rulers exaggerated these tales to justify control, while others see them as true reflections of the chaos shadow warriors sowed. A question that lingers in modern studies of power and secrecy. You lean back. The trees bark soft against your shoulders. The mist thickens, wrapping you like a blanket, and your breath slows. You see the shadow warriors fading, not with a clash but a sigh, their daggers rusting, their secrets whispered to the wind. You feel their weight lift, their stories settling into the earth, safe in the quiet of the glade. You're tired, but it's a good tired, the kind that comes from a long journey's end. You think of Florence, of Pella, of Knossos, and smile. You were there, in the dark, and you carried their light. Now, it's time to rest, to let the shadows fade, to dream of a world where no one needs to hide. Your eyes grow heavy. The mist, a gentle veil. You whisper to yourself, to the forest, to the shadows you've known. You're safe now, you say, and the words feel true. The rain stops, the glade silent, and you drift, the world softening, the darkness kind. You're a shadow, but you're home, cradled by the night. Your story complete, you're still in the glade. The mist, now a soft glow, the forest holding its breath. Your cloak is damp, your dagger still, your heart quiet. The shadows of Olympias, Knossos, Byzantium, they're fading now, their stories told, their weight lifted. You feel light, unburdened, as if the night itself is tucking you in. The world is far away. Its sieges and schemes just echoes in the trees. You think of the Minotaur, not a monster, but a soul, lost in its maze, and know you've found your way out. You smile, slow and warm, the glade cradling you like a mother's arms. The stars peek through the mist, faint but steady, and you know you're not alone, not anymore. Your journey's done, the shadows at peace, their whispers now a lullaby. Close your eyes, let the forest sing, and drift into dreams where shadows dance no more. Sleep now, gentle traveler. The night is yours.